Back on the show, it's Gavin Tucker who's going to be taking on Rick Glenn at UFC 215 on September 9th. Gavin, what's going on? How are you?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Glad you could join me here after training. I know it's a bit late for you over there in Halifax. But first, let's talk about your UFC debut in February. You went out there and you got a unanimous decision over Sam Sicilia at UFC Fight Night 105 in your backyard. How happy were you with that performance? You won a lot of fans that night, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was a good night. You know, a good way to make a debut in your hometown is always the best way to do it when you have the crowd behind you. It's nice and a nice warm room for me, and it was a good night overall. Like I said, I always want to finish, so I was like immediately looking back at stuff like that. I missed a couple attempts on the heel hooks there, and he did a good job of keeping his hands up on the head kicks. He's a very tough guy, so I was happy with it, but onward and upward. The next guy has a little bit of that same kind of character. A real brick chin and kind of a zombie coming forward, always in your face. So it was like a very similar matchup, except he's 6 foot tall and left-handed.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll talk about the matchup in a second here. But going back to that night in Halifax, how'd you celebrate after the fight? You must have had a pretty big party there. I know it was late, but you got a big win.
No, I just met up with my family. I hadn't seen in a long time. My family all came out for the fight, and we all just kind of hung out, and we were happy to see each other. And it was pretty late, and I feel a little bit. I'm not much of a partier, I never was. I was literally in the gym that Monday morning. We're talking about the fight, going through jiu-jitsu classes, business as usual. So it's not the outcome of the fight is not going to determine, anything other than what I get paid or what who I get next and stuff like that. But this is business as usual for me, always,
And one more thing on that fight, what was the reception like? I mean, again, you had a really good debut. I mean, it was buzzing all over social media and everything like that. Did a lot of people reach out to you and kind of, congratulate you and things like that more than, say, some of your other fights?
Yeah, of course, it definitely brought me to a lot more exposure. People seemed a lot more interested. After I had won, people seemed a lot more interested. So it was cool in that way because it definitely helps. The more exposure, the better I could do for myself outside and in between fights. So that made it good. And that's not what I'm looking for. Of course, you want people to like you. When you're an athlete, you want people to like you, but the important part is getting the wins, getting the W's. And when you're exposed and you have the opportunity to get yourself out there, you have more opportunity for sponsors and stuff like that, which leads to more training. So because of that fight and because of the exposure, I got to spend a lot more time training in Thailand, where I love. I've been there like 3 times now, and I got to train in Montreal for extended periods of time with Crew Ash at his Muay Thai gym and with Faraz at Tristar and all those guys. So it was like, I'm getting out there a lot more. This has opened a lot more doors for me and helped me grow a lot more, which is great, which is the goal. Just to have a good debut, but then take the step, just immediately throw yourself back into an uncomfortable situation with a room full of killers, and that's the goal. And it's just move.
So is that the reason why you're fighting in September and not, immediately after the fight in February? You just wanted more time to kind of go out and train and get different looks?
Yeah, I wanted to upgrade my skill set. So now I'm under contract with the UFC for a 4-fight deal. So the opportunity to take downtime and get better, for example, to train in the gi and work towards my black belt in jiu-jitsu and stuff like this. This is kind of on a hiatus right now because the priority is always to get the rounds, to get the situations that are going to improve me immediately for the cage. So I still, of course, take time to focus on things individually, as everybody in this sport is going to do, but I'm a lot more selective because the urgency is really placed on what's going to be used in the next fight, what's going to be applicable for the next fight, what's going to be applicable for the cage. So it always goes towards that.
And on that same note of cross-training, did you go to the UFC Retreat when they had all the fighters out there?
Yeah, I went down for the weekend. I initially turned it down, but then I kind of got an email saying you have to go. You don't have to go, but you kind of.
Why didn't you want to go? Just out of curiosity.
I had brought in some boxers that week, or I had some boxing that week here in town, and I was getting some good rounds, and I was just like, I don't want to go hang out with fighters in my weight class. I don't know these guys or whatever. I didn't have any interest in that, and but it turned out to be this really cool thing. But again, I was like, I'll enjoy my mat time, you know.
Yeah, well, man, you're a different breed of fighter, that's for sure. And I admire that about you. You know, it's all about business, all about fighting. I mean, a lot of fighters, when they got that email or phone call, they couldn't wait to go to Vegas. But you, it's like, hey, I got to train. So I give you props for that. I think that's great. Just going down there and getting to do, you know, the retreat and everything. Who were some of the fighters you hung out with when you were down there? Or were you just kind of, you know, minding your own business and just going through the process?
No, I met some really cool guys, and some guys in my weight class were really cool too, and they were nice guys. You know, ultimately, you don't want to get too friendly with people, but you know, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys there that were really cool. Chad Laprise has always been a good friend of mine. He's been really helpful and guiding me through some things because. He's kind of a veteran right now in the sport and been through quite a bit. And we got to train together when I was there. Jason Sago, who lives out east, and hung out with the Canadians mostly, you know, but mostly with Laprise. Him and I got to do some striking drills together and my sparring. He's so good, you know. He's like one of the better strikers at that weight division now, and you just saw his move up to 170 and what happened there. So I see a lot of good stuff happening for him at that weight.
Yeah, nice win over Brian Camozzi in his last fight, getting the stoppage in that one. It's definitely doesn't hurt to hang out with Chad Laprise. Did you run into Jeremy Kennedy at all? Because you guys are both Canadian, both at featherweight. Did you happen to see him at all?
Yeah, we took a pic together. We took a caption at the Maple Leaf is Strong at 145. We hung out. We took an Uber together. We talked a little bit, and it was cool. We talked a lot about our next opponents and stuff like too. It was said, and he's a pretty cool guy, you know. Like he was the first guy to approach me. I was kind of being a little standoffish to everyone. He came up to me and shook hands. I was like, okay, this is it. And he turned out to be a real nice guy too. So, you know, I think it's always difficult when you have friends or people that you know in the same weight class. But generally, I think we're the only two Canadians maybe at 145. They may keep the path separate till a certain point. And I think even though we can all be friendly, everyone's aware of what happens if two people are successful. You eventually meet down the road, and like I said, it's all business for me. People pay good money to find out who the best is in every weight, and they deserve to know that. You know, so do I. So it is what it is.
There might be another undefeated featherweight fighter from Canada heading into the UFC soon. There's rumblings that Hakeem Dawodu is close to signing with the UFC. Are you familiar with him at all?
Yeah, of course. I watch everyone on 145. I know this guy a lot. He's a very good striker, Muay Thai base from Mike Miles' gym in mid Canada. Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's a valid, logical decision for the UFC to put this guy in there. We need more Canadians in there.
I agree.
And I like to see it. You know what I mean? I like to see these guys recognizing these guys. Plus high level strikers are exciting to get into the UFC because. You know, it makes for good viewing for the fans. So the more Canadians in, the more opportunity and chances we have to bring a championship back to Canada, and that's the goal. You know.
Absolutely, I like that. I like hearing that because there's a lot of great talent in the UFC from Canada. So I'm glad to see you guys repping it pretty strong. But let's talk about this fight with Rick Glenn. He's a former World Series of Fighting champion. How do you feel like you match up against him?
Yeah, it's an interesting fight, you know, like because you don't get this body type too often. You don't get people are like, oh, southpaw. I don't like fighting southpaw. Me personally, I like fighting southpaw. I've been boxing and sparring with southpaws since I started doing this. We have a lot of southpaws around. It's weird. It's like Titans draws in southpaws for some reason. I've had a lot of guys 6 foot, 6'4", 6'2" that I've had for sparring, and you know, stylistically, I think is a good matchup. You can always talk and plan and go over things in your head. I know Rick at this point. I think as well as maybe some of his closest relatives know. I watched a lot of stuff, and I've got some good plans. If it goes the way I have it set in my head, it's going to be a beautiful fight. You know, if it doesn't go the way I have it set in my head, you guys are getting your money's worth. Like I always say, you know, people are getting their money's worth out of me, one way or the other. So if my skills get it done, it's gonna be a martial arts, you know, a display. If they don't get it done, you guys are gonna get the cage fighting version.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. I love hearing that. Let's talk about training camp. You talked about all the places you've been cross training. For the remainder of this camp, is it going to be staying at home base, or are you going to do any more cross training?
Yeah, I mean the issue with training a lot and traveling is the money that it requires as well. So at this point, I've pretty much reinvested everything that I've made back into myself and into my skills. I've trained with some really good guys and got to go around and test myself and challenge myself and take in good instruction from top level guys. So at this point here, I'm just home trying to make sure that everything I got was really specific for this fight. Really specific towards Glenn's tendencies, really specific towards his striking style, really specific towards the way he plays close guard, the way he wrestles against the fence, everything, from really high level guys. So right now I'm going to stay here and I'm kind of in the woodshed. I'm doing long days and very technical sessions, blast cardio sessions because he is a zombie. He's not going to get tired. You can expect him there for 15 minutes. This is a super exciting fight. And the wonderful thing about this is because it's an unorthodox kind of fight, you don't get 6-foot southpaws too often. It's been a huge opportunity for me to grow. I really had to focus on dealing with length. I really had to focus on southpaw specific style. Really had to focus on some really unorthodox stuff that he might throw and the way he approaches clinch and the way he approaches cage fights. So this has been a treat already.
One of the guys I know you were training a little bit with, because I spoke to him myself, was Chris Kalidas, UFC veteran who just picked up a win in Legacy Fighting Alliance. How nice is it to get to train with a guy like that who's very intelligent and been in the sport for a bit?
Yeah, it's great, man. Chris offers a lot of guidance too. You know what I mean? Like I said, he's a veteran. He's been through Bellator, through the UFC. He's had a long career in this. Fought locally, and we've seen each other coming up, and now we're training partners. Now we help each other, so it's great. We're on the mats pretty often, even when we're not sparring together, we're drilling together. And Chris is a real talented guy. I don't know if you know this, but in his UFC record, the only guys that he lost to are now top contenders.
Pettis, who just won last week, and I was talking to him about this actually because it's like I think he was 2-2, and they released him, and it's like look at the guys he fought. It's not like he was in a boring fight. I didn't get that cut, to be honest.
No, and he's a tough guy. Not just in his weight, but anyway, if you put him a weight class above, he's going to do well too. He's a super scrambly, super gritty guy, and he just showed it this week, and he beat a Division I wrestler. And everyone coming out of our gym right now is a gritty guy because you can't be in that room and survive the room. It has an old school flavor with a lot of modern technique, which I think is like the perfect kind of formula for building those kind of hard-nosed guys who aren't afraid of D1 wrestlers. You're not afraid of good striker. You're not afraid of black belt. You're not afraid. You're gonna get in there and fight. And that's what you signed up for. So it's like, he's gonna be back in there. I think fairly soon. I think if he strings a few wins together, there's no reason that they shouldn't take a second look at him because he fought top quality opponents. And if Ray Borg ends up winning the title against Mighty Mouse, I'm not too familiar with Borg other than that fight and his skill level. Then the only guys that have beat him have been top contenders and then champions. So I think that he definitely deserves a second look.
Yeah, and that was a close fight anyways. So it's, you can never look past him there. Just talk a bit more about some of your training partners. I know you don't come from a gym that has the who's who, but who are some guys we should be keeping an eye on that you're perhaps working with in your training camps?
Yeah, so I've got a lot of boxers, amateurs and pros right now. This young kid, Wyatt Sanford, he's 19 years old. This kid just won the ringside title, Kansas City. Amateur boxer, a lot of fights, just stealing gold medals all over the place, not leaving any for anyone else. And he's an excellent sparring partner for me. Really brings that high intensity forward pressure. Who's awesome. It's always a great sparring session every time we get together. I spar a lot with guys who are super fast, a little smaller, shorter than Glenn, but Tyson Cave, who's on his way back to a world title right now, pro boxer, lots of fights. Joey Lavalette, undefeated pro, a good national amateur champion. A lot of the guys in the gym from Kurash's Tito, who's exactly 6 foot tall. I think he's like maybe 16-0 now in Muay Thai. He's very good. Did some work with Jonathan Brookins up at Tristar, who's a nice tall southpaw, very gritty, full of momentum. I've got a lot of good guys, plus a lot of people that you wouldn't know here at Titans who who are helping me out with all kinds of stuff too. So there's always good bodies around. People think that, okay, this is a small gym. We don't know, he ain't got nobody. He don't have this. He don't have that. And then you come in and you expect to fight, and look what happened last time. You didn't exactly get what you expected, right? So people are, if that in their head, they think I don't have the resources. Like, I've got like 12 black belts at my disposal on a daily basis. I've got amateur boxing champions, great Muay Thai fighters. If people are using that as the reason, like, I come from this gym, I come from a big gym, they've got this guy, that guy is like, good for you. You're going to have to go back, look them in the eyes, and tell them that slick little Newfie beat the fuck out of you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, and you don't have to look any further than the two UFC champions right now, Demetrius Johnson and Stipe Miocic. They don't come from huge camps, and they're doing quite fine. They're winning a lot of fights, right? So they don't have any who's who.
Yeah, absolutely. You do have to get inside and test yourself, of course, you know what I mean? But when you're in training, an important thing is, like, for me right now, so I'm in the UFC. So when you go to a gym now, people who follow the sport, or like, this guy's in the UFC, you get sparring with guys in the UFC, and people are a little more interested in trying to win rounds against you. You understand what I mean? People are going to want to come at you a little harder. So you have to remember to put the ego aside sometimes too. It's not about winning rounds; it's about improving for the next fight. So if you run around with a chip on your shoulder the whole time, you're not going to make friends in gyms. You're not going to make friends with people. You go into a room and you have to be humble. Take in the lessons, especially when you travel. Not try to be the stud all the time. Not try to show the best version of yourself all the time. To really make an effort to put yourself out there and grow. And I'm super lucky to have good people around me. Canada's a great place, man. Tristar, Crew, Ash, Muay Thai. I'm telling you, these guys here, awesome. My own gym at Titans, is a really good atmosphere. People can say what they want about any of the gyms in the world, over the planet, but people are really open to share techniques and share experience around here. I'm really fortunate to have people around like that.
That's awesome. I love hearing stuff like that. We're about a month out from the fight. When does the weight cut process start for you, as far as getting down to 45?
Yeah, so the last time I didn't have a weight cut process at all. I cut. I was really low in weight because I was looking at potentially going down a weight class, but now I'm much heavier. I'm wrestling 4 times a week, hard. My weight is up a lot. So I've started the weight cut now because I have to maintain a certain level. I know for a lot of guys, they get out to high 160s off season. If that's, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So for me, I'm about mid 160s now, which is a huge change for me. So you're going to see a different body type going into this cage. And potentially a different style, depends on how he approaches the fight as well.
Yeah. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that fight, September 9th. How do you see this fight sort of unfolding with you and Rick Glenn?
It's going to be it's hard to say. He saw my last fight. I watched his last fight. He comes from a camp at Alpha Male now with these guys. They might tell him to come out and wrestle this kid, don't let him move, throw some kicks, throw some low kicks. They might tell him to come out and clinch me. He might come out and do his usual forward pressure, looking for his lefts. And it's hard to say. It's hard to say how he'll come into the game. His last fight with Nover, he engaged in the striking until it was about even, and then pushed against the wall. With Dunham, he didn't really have the opportunity because Dunham bullied him a little bit and came out and was really heavy in the volume of the punches. So it really depends on how he approaches the fight. He's fought a lot of southpaws. He's fought everyone from Lance Palmer right up through to Evan Dunham and quite a few names in between. So he'll be comfortable fighting a southpaw, but I don't think he's seen the same looks, that I'm going to give him, the same kind of way that I'm approaching it with boxing. If it becomes a battle of length versus speed, I'm really prepared to deal with that, because as the fight kind of unfolds, you get more into the hand exchanges. In MMA, come in flashes. You inside, pop, 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 pop. It either ends in a clinch or ends in a separation. So the boxing rounds that I'm putting in are really geared around winning those flashes, those flash exchanges, and those are going to come from me having to deal with length or him coming to me, which he has a tendency to do. You don't really have to fish this guy in. He will be very hard to find, So the way it's going to look is going to be really dependent on him. And if he decides to sit back and wait for me and let me come, that's a real bad idea. Really, really bad idea, because me on the front foot and someone on the back foot is not going to be is going to be where I'm strongest. I think I like to counter and lay back and move and cut and stuff like this. But if I'm pressured too much, I'm not going to hesitate to wrestle at all. I'm not going to hesitate to take those shots, engage in those clinches. I've been working for the past 3 months, towards his strengths. And even more since we got the call on who specifically the fight was. But now for the next 4 weeks, I'm in shape. I'm sparring 8 rounds with great boxers 3 times a week. I'm wrestling 4 times a week. I get my MMA rounds in. Everything's looking super sharp, and I'm fit. So for the next 4 weeks, it's going to be all about what I'm going to do to this guy, because everything else is addressed, and every style and every version of this guy that can possibly come in is addressed. So we'll see what the fight looks like based on what version of Rick Glenn shows up.
George St-Pierre is coming back to fight Michael Bisping. I don't know if you got a chance to talk to him at all when you were down in Montreal, but how do you sort of see his fight going with Bisping?
Yeah, George never stops training. I was in Montreal. You see this guy in the room. He's not, and he doesn't he's there. I don't think Bisping knows what's coming. This guy's like an alien. This guy. I don't know if you can put a guy in front of this guy that he can't blast double, or find some way to get this to his beautiful jab and all that stuff that made George St-Pierre hasn't gone away. It hasn't just. So everyone's like, oh, we'll just deal with this jab, we'll just deal with this double leg or this snap down to double leg or crack down to double leg, and everything else would be great. It's like, well, what does everyone think George has been doing for the past while since he's been gone? You know what I mean? He's got world champions in every sport in all the time. He's got his own private room that he brings it to. This guy is like a superhero, you know what I mean? Kind of, and especially to us Canadian fighters, everyone looks up to George so much, and it's definitely warranted admiration, because he didn't just pave the way, but then stepped back on his own terms and is now re-entering on his own terms as a reinvented version of himself, as an aspiring guy to every degree.
Love hearing that. That's so cool. I like that, getting your analysis on that. Before I let you go, last question, and again, I appreciate the time here tonight. If anyone hasn't noticed in this interview, you're a hyper-focused guy, especially when it comes to your fighting career. Did you get to do anything this summer? Any plans of getting away or anything like that? Did you go camping? Did you do anything like that this summer?
This summer? What month is it?
We're in August. It's almost coming up in September soon.
Right, yeah, I know the September 9th. I just go by week blocks and weeks.
Fair enough.
My girl, she makes sure that I participate in life and some kind of social activities from time to time. She definitely keeps me involved in the human race to the minimal amount. We definitely were in Thailand. We definitely got to see some beautiful beaches and things like that on my rest days, and got to visit some statues and take in some of the culture and stuff. That was very cool. And my time training in Montreal rest days, I got to look around a little bit. But, honestly, man, I haven't had a vacation or time to get away. I've slept in some gyms, I've slept in some hostels as I travel. I don't mind waking up in the gym and going straight to the ring. You can ask Kurash. He's got me on the security cam and staying in the gym late at night. He's laughing at me, but I don't focus and have this determination for other people to see it and acknowledge it. It's for the outcome of what happens here, So I don't take vacations, and the only way I'm going to take a vacation is if someone absolutely comes in and beats the brakes off me and forces me, and I'm not letting that happen. I know it may happen sometime, but I just keep telling myself it's not going to be this next one, and it is most certainly not going to be this next one.
Love it. Gavin, always a pleasure, man, getting a chance to talk to you. Like I said, I always learn so much when we have these discussions here. It's UFC 215. It's coming up here on September 9th. Just remind people where they can get a hold of you on social media, and if you got any thank yous or shout-outs, the floor is yours, man.
Social media, I think GTuck45 on Instagram. I'm not very good with the social media stuff. Like I said, people help me. I'm pretty much socially inept, and I run through it, but if people are looking to find me, they can come to 174 Horseshoe Lake Drive, Titans MMA. That's where you find me. On social media, Facebook, Gavin Tucker, Instagram, GTuck45. That's pretty much it. No guarantee I'll pick up the phone, but if you knock on the door at Titans, likely you'll find me there.